Obviously, we're looking forward to playing some football now. Seems like fall camp went really quickly for us, as it always does. Had a good trip up to Rio Dosa and came back, and the last couple weeks we've been hitting it pretty hard. Been happy with the way the team's been working and what we've been putting out on the field to this point. It's important for us. We're going to be defined on how good our seconds and thirds are as well as our firsts, and so that's been a big emphasis for us throughout the whole fall camp work, and I feel like we've developed some good depth going in. Obviously we had to replace a lot of guys in the secondary, as we looked at, losing some key starters from last year's football team. We're going into the first game and feel like, we've gone out and recruited some players that have the athletic ability to be able to play for us in the secondary. Now we're looking for them to step up in their first starts, and those two starters will be Josh Caldwell at one corner, Deron Lowe at the other corner, stepping up. Justin Prince, who we feel like is a really talented secondary player for us, will be starting at a safety spot for us as well. And then, of course, we got Justin Rogers and Michael Lewis rounding out the starting secondary for us. Those guys have returning starting experience. And at the linebacker position, we're really, really happy to have Jason Van Hook back and playing for us. He missed last season, and Jason gives us a lot of speed and athleticism at that one linebacker position. And then Sione Tupu and Joe J. Smith are battling out at that other position, but we feel like we're very athletic at that other linebacker spot as well. And at the outside linebacker spot, the same position, Clay Griffin's got a very good hold on that. And we're basing out of a 3-down front, and we feel like Chris Richardson and Denzel are two guys that have a really good firm grasp on those positions. We're looking for both those guys to have stellar seasons for us and do some really good things. And then there's a Prezan Mahuli's battling out at that other spot right now, and he's getting pushed by some guys there, Dakari Bickham, Sonny Buckingham. We also got Dedrick Simpson battling at that spot, Nathan Logalia. We feel like we're really developing some depth on our defensive line, and we know how important that is to have that depth. So that rounds out our defensive personnel for us. Again, trying to establish as much depth as we can at all those positions as well, but that's talking about our top guys at those positions right now. Moving over to offense, again, a big push for us to come into the season relatively healthy at the offensive line position. We feel like we're entering this ball game with just that, with that being the case. We got Greg Long at the, starting at the right tackle position. Ruben Guarez had a really, really good camp at the right guard position. Darren Gatewood at the center spot. It's nice to have Darren and Greg back. They were both injured last year. Ruben was injured quite a bit last year. He's been completely healthy and had, like I said, a great camp. Bobby DeHaro is returning at the left guard spot, and Bobby had a bunch of starts for us last year, but he's really raised his game to a whole nother level at that left guard spot. And then back at the left tackle spot, Zuri Henry and Dart Ali are battling out at that left tackle position. But we also have Elijah Klein, who's as good as any of the 5 or 6 guys I just mentioned. It's kind of a flip guy on that offensive line. He can play right guard, he can play right tackle, he can play left guard, he can play left tackle. Moving to tight end, Jess Truss of the Purdue transfers, had a really good camp. Been pleased with what he's brought to the table. And then, of course, Trent Thompson, I think, is a very, very talented tight end / H-back player for us. Those two guys will get the predominant snaps at the tight end position. At the fullback position, we got James Tupu and Forrest McKee, who are both very talented fullbacks. And as you know, we use the fullback position a lot in our offense, so it's nice to have both those two guys working, and I think they'll both be able to play quite a bit in this ball game. Moving to running back, as we all know, we lost Quadrez Wadley going into the first game, but we felt like we really got fortunate to get Josh Fields back and going and back with the team. And so Trayvon Hughes will be our starter. Josh Fields will get a lot of reps in there. Those two will take the predominant amount of reps. And then, of course, we'll have Ray Flores and Deion Hankins getting some touches too in that first ball game, and see what they can do at the running back spot. Receiver, we've really felt like we've amped up our depth there. at the receiver spot and our skill set. The guys that have had the best camp have been Trey Wolf, has had an outstanding camp, really has got some good speed for us. We've been pleased with Alan Boosie, what he's been able to bring to the table at the receiver position. We redshirted Walter Don and Kavika Johnson last year. They both had really, really good camps. And then Jacob Cowing is a freshman that stepped in for us, has had a really, really good camp, has got some good speed to him. Justin Garrett's had a nice camp as well. And then Devon Cooper, the transfer from Arizona, has also been performing very well. So we have some depth that we've developed at the receiver position. Looking forward to watching those guys play and see what they can do. And then, of course, Brandon Jones will be our starter at quarterback for this first game. So that rounds out the offense. And then, Brett, I really haven't thought about the rotation of quarterback right now. Brandon's going to be the starter, and, it's going to be his to go with initially, and then we'll just kind of, see how it goes from there. Yeah, we haven't really referred Colin to that much last year. The program's in a different stage, a different phase right now. We're just trying to play good quality football no matter who we're playing against right now, and that's our biggest thrust right now, is to come out and do the things we need to do and play a disciplined football game. That's going to be important for us, to try to play as clean a first game as you can play. We've all got to see the couple college games that were this weekend, and they weren't the cleanest of games. They were kind of raggedy. And so I'll definitely put a lot of emphasis with our team to try to play a really clean football game. I think we're just really looking forward to having all these guys back and going. And even the guys that got to play last year are a year better now. And so to me, that can be a strength of our football team. And when our football teams are the best, we're strong up front. And we need to be strong up front to be a good football team. So they can be the leaders of our whole unit if they play the way I expect them to play. I think starting fast is important, I do. I think we want to come out of the gate with a lot of emotion, a lot of enthusiasm, but we want to be consistent too. You got to be careful about putting all your eggs in one basket there. I do want us to start fast, but we got to be a team that just learns how to handle the ups, handles prosperity and adversity. I've always said that. My very first interview that I had here was talking about handling prosperity and adversity. And it was funny because Jordan Palmer came back and talked to our team, and that's one of the things that he talked to them about is, some guys, how do you handle prosperity, how do you handle adversity? So however we start a game, obviously I want to start fast, but we got to be able to handle it either way. It's been an interesting summer, with the Kai incident and more important, the El Paso incident that we had, and then the passing of Luke, two of those tragic events that we had. Luke's funeral is going to be this Wednesday. I'm going to go back, and Babe asked me to speak at the funeral, so I'll be saying some words at the funeral, and then we're going to do something on Saturday between the quarters to honor Luke. And Babe, his dad's going to come back for the game, and his brother Joe Willie's going to come back for the game as well. So that's going to be a nice thing for us. But it's definitely, those two things, the latter two that I mentioned, have been the ones that have been, drawing on our team, but I also hope they motivate our team as well. Yeah, Kai's been good. He's been a good teammate. We talked about him being a good teammate. We talked about him conforming and doing things that way we ask him to do them, and Kai's done a nice job with all of that. He's focused on trying to have a really good senior year and help us have a good season. It's important to see a good crowd at the game. Our guys would definitely appreciate that and play hard. Seeing fans in the stadium for us, it's just important, and we just continue to help build the momentum as we continue to play quality football throughout the year. Well, Jacob is really a special player right now. You hate to get up too many accolades, but he's had a really, really good camp, and he's shown us some things as a young player that's very reminiscent of some other guys that we've coached at Kansas State. But it's too early to give him too strong accolades until he starts doing it. But he's definitely, alongside of some of the guys that we had there that ended up playing for a long time. He's reminded us of some of those guys right now, and we're hoping he can take that to Saturday, evening when we put the lights on here. So I felt like the first recruiting class was a good recruiting class, and I feel like our second one's been dramatically better than the first one. So I feel like, we've done a good job of starting to build the roster talent that we need to build. Just talking about last year, we played, I was sitting at the conference table, head coaches meeting, and I looked at all the people on our side of the division, and I said, you know what, we could have won that game, 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 and that was with a deleted, beat-up team. You know, the only game that was the last one against Southern Miss when we had hardly, you know, anybody left, and then I looked at the way we played against Rice, and then I went back the last 5 years of how we've played, last 5 times we went to Rice and how we've played against Rice the last 5 times or 4 times UTEP's gone to Rice to play, and then we were able to beat them, you know, the way we did. So as I look at that in the first year, and considering all the injuries we had and everything, you know, there was a lot of positives from last season. I'm going to give him, Brandon's not going to feel like if he goes out and has 2 or 3 bad series that we're going to pull him. He understands that. He's worked too hard. You know, I'm going to judge somebody on the body of their work right now. And, you know, again, I had that conversation about another position on our field. You know, if you go out and have a bad performance for a couple snaps or a bad performance for a half a game, that's not merit to me for the whole body of work that you put in throughout the course of the offseason. So he's going to be judged more on his leadership and his body of work. You know, I don't know if we ever go into a game with a definite, you know, goal on that. It's going to be what teams are doing to you. It's been funny, our offense, you know, when it's humming and it's rolling in the right direction, can be so difficult to defend, and so people defend us differently every game than anybody. So just for instance at Kansas State, we never got the same defense that team had played against somebody else. So every game was like the first quarter, we had to sit back and make an adjustment and figure out, okay, how are they going to defend us today, because our offense is a little bit different than what most people do and a little bit more diverse. And so that, it just depends on what people are doing to us. Are they going to try to force us to throw the ball? Or are they going to try to, you know, give us the ability to run the football? So that's how we'd answer that question. So it's really indicative on the style of defense that we're going to see in a game.